wanted to do a video on my psychology. Um, and exactly where it comes from, I guess. My entire life, even as a child, like growing up, my parents were always the children. Uh, my father, notoriously, and mother, always used emotional manipulation tactics. Yeah. The, my father would be like, "You don't feel bad for your daddy?" And I'd be like, 4 or 5, and that would work. But then, like at 6 or 7, I was just like, "My dad's an adult, and he needs to grow the fuck up." Or, I didn't say fuck when I was a kid. I didn't curse. Or my mom would be like, "You don't want to give something to your mom. You don't feel bad for your..." And it's emotional manipulation. It's low key emotional manipulation. So I just learned early on to stop caring about my emotions really quick. And I think that's a stark contrast to the malignant narcissist, because they only care about how they feel, but they also don't know how they feel. I don't remember what I was watching. It was some self-help talk show daytime, like Maury Povich or Dr. Drew or some crap like that. And the guy was like, "You need to learn to label your emotions without judgment." So little manganese brain. There's manganese in the Florida water, and I drank it as a kid out of the sprinklers because I was a really stupid kid. I used to eat mud pies. I was a really stupid kid. Okay. Um, but he was like, "You need to learn to label your emotions," and I was like, "Okay." And it's kind of funny because in life, I literally, for the first half of my life, believed that anger was my default emotion. I thought everything was anger. That was not the case. I do have a lot of hatred, and hatred's a separate emotion than anger. But I thought, like, I was just frustrated, and I thought frustration was anger. I thought, like, not like this being displeased with something was anger. I thought, like, it was all root. Everything was anger. And then you learn. I remember in elementary school, I was flipping through a book in a book, and it had this wheel of emotions, and I didn't know what they were, but it also had the like little context page, and it explained the emotions on the other side. So our teacher was like reading out of this book and basically enabled me to learn there were other emotions that were like anger, like displeasure or frustration, but you're not mad, you're just exhausted mentally. Like yeah. Sadness. Our cat Mimo died, and I was kind of a brick about it, but I remember my brother crying. And I didn't really understand the concept of sorrow. Um, it took me a while, but eventually I did lose something. I think it was like our dog Y or something like that that did actually make me feel sad. Um, but the issue is even though I was capable of recognizing my emotions, I also didn't give a shit about them because I had witnessed from my parents exactly where an emotional brain leads, and it just leads into destruction. It is just purely fucking you. My number one day, I think I was probably 10 or 11 years old. I was visiting my dad one summer. We went to McDonald's, and this little kid wanted a toy, and his mom didn't get him. He didn't get the toy he wanted in his Happy Meal. And he's get a toy, and he starts stomping his feet and waving his fist. And then my dad, I got the wrong meal. I was supposed to get like chicken nuggets, and they gave me a burger. And my dad went over, "Bitch, give me the chicken nuggets, get it!" He starts screaming and stomping his foot and waving his fist, and I was just like, my father has never aged since the age of like 2. I had that realization. He thinks and operates just like a 2-year-old. And I guess the emotion you would have felt is embarrassment, but I was too busy observing and not caring. So I guess maybe I was supposed to feel embarrassed, but I didn't really give a shit. So the rational mind happens later, but when I was growing up, I was abused by this guy named Nick, and my mother just wanted to cover it up. And that's normal in abuse relationships. My mom's emotionally stunted, and emotionally stunted people are always obsessed with what other people think. My mom didn't want to be perceived to be a heartless, evil woman and didn't want to be like, oh, my kids are being abused. She just wanted to stick it to my dad and show him that she could get a man in a house because my dad told her, you'll never get anybody better than me. And my mom had to stick it to my dad, and my dad had to stick it to my mom because they're both emotionally stunted retards. I consider them autistic. I do not consider them intelligent or functional beings in any metric. When I went to psychology, it was a psychologist, after talking to me for a couple hours on end, I remember they told me my mistake was believing there were adults, and that's why I had so much hatred, was believing that there were real adults in the world. And my mistake was just that I was so mad that there weren't real adults. And I wanted my parents, I treated like my parents like they were adults when they were children, and they operated like children. And they always make the wrong decision no matter what. And then they scream and bitch when it goes bad. And it's just stupid. You just want to bust them in their mouth. Like, I don't even, whatever. But when you're getting beaten and molested as a kid and it happens at random with, like me, you kind of become desensitized to assault. Turning violence and threats and fear just don't spook me like they spook normal person. Think of Stu at Ingalls. He's gonna kill me, spooky fingers. Like, I don't respond well to threats. I often don't even know when I'm in danger. I've had people like, I'm gonna kill you, screaming, waving guns and pulling knives, and I just stare at them because I literally don't understand I'm in danger. Yeah. That comes from being abused. Now, that's something I think is a big part, because a big chunk of the Church of the Anal Eaten Mummy is fear, and everything is just threats and fear and threats and fear. And I just don't do emotions in general, and I can understand where I'd be at extreme odds with every malignant narcissist ever, because all they care about is how they feel. That's why LSD is so important, because it enables them to control how they feel. They just pop it and they're good. You don't understand. I'm in control of my emotions. I can change them by doing drugs. You're a fucking imbecile. Mastery of emotions means actually feeling your emotions, processing them, and then letting them pass. If you cannot process your emotions, they just stay in you. And that's the issue with every dumbass malignant narcissist, is that you make them feel some kind of way, they can't process it, and they know they hate you. Or they think they hate you. Or they're actually jealous of you. They're jealous of your success. Like, and one of the things, it took me a minute to actually comprehend this, but I remember Stu talking about every time you succeed at the church, they poison you with more heavy metals. They poison you with more. They make you stupider. And it's because your success makes them insecure, and that's why they have to hurt you, because your success made them feel like failures. And everything is about how they feel, and that's why everybody at the church and every other dumbass around them is all about how this one piece of shit feels. It's how they're like a hive mind. It's about how my master feels. He feels angry, therefore I'm angry. You're an idiot. So, it was later when I met Officer Harrell, he told me about being a stoic. How stoics, even in extreme situations, don't freak out or get scared. And I decided I would make that my philosophy. Now, another thing with stoic is, like Ergos or whatever, it's like universe juice or some shit. I do believe in a form of the universe. I've always had a bizarre connection with the. I mean, once I got poisoned enough with heavy metals, I was completely knocked out with my connection with the universe. But it's come back recently, and I can kind of feel everything around me. You feel like you're alive again. You feel that connection with the universe. And I've always had, due to being abused, I had a super loud ego and a super loud super ego. My super ego was always this kind of broken, weird voice that was always, it referred to me as hero and always pushed me to do good. My ego was always a fucker that wanted to fuck everything up, just wanted to destroy. And I argue distinctly that is all the malignant narcissists at the church are. They are 100% destructive ego, and the ego wants two things. It wants control, okay? The ego is always about control. And that is why the malignant narcissists at the church are all about control, and everything smoke and mirrors. Remember, they have their own made-up language, and even the language is subversive because it removes things from it because they don't want you to talk about those things. If you're an intelligent person, they don't want you thinking. They poison you with heavy metals to make you not think. They make you stupid. They give you the psychology they want, which is the addict brain. They make you psychopathic, and they rape you for control. It is all control. Every facet of their brain is control. When I was growing up, there was no control. There was pure chaos, but I also witnessed how pure chaos can lead into a functional world. How everything is so random and crazy, it's not actually random and crazy. One time I was delivering a pizza and Officer Carrot pulled me over. Yeah, and he took my knife, and he was like, "You can't have knives." And this was just the church being dicks, because they were concerned if I had a knife, they would make it harder to murder my ass. And I got that pizza delivered, and the guy tipped me with a new knife, a bigger knife, a combat knife. That's the universe. That's what happens when you're connected with the universe. The dumb shit with Stu's entitlement. I wasn't entitled to shit. So this dickhead took my knife. I was given a new knife. Yeah. In other facets of my psychologies, people often are like, "Oh, I can't reach you on an emotional level." That's because I don't give a fuck about how I feel. I remember saying it many fucking times. The malignant church leaders, all of them probably got this. I don't let fear make my decisions. And one of the things they do at the church is they poison you with strychnine, and it causes just irrational fear. And I remember being confused after getting poisoned by Stu with it, because he was like, "Fear me," and I was just like, "Man, I feel afraid." But I'm so disassociative from my emotions that when the emotions kick in, I first wonder where they came from and why I feel this way. And I quickly was like, there's something wrong with my nervous system. But I also didn't fucking care. I mean, that's back when my nervous system was good. They've completely destroyed it, and it's completely fucking shit now. I seize up and freak out at random, and it's all in my nerves, so there's that. I have permanent nervous system damage from prolonged exposures to heavy metals. That's how fucked up I am. I will never be okay. But yeah, so when your parents constantly behave like children, and everybody you know, even my aunts and uncles and everybody I know, they all behaved like children. Baby boomers were worshipped as children, so they never grew up, and that's the first thing you need to understand. The second thing is they were exposed to high levels of heavy metals. Lead and tetralead was in the gas, it was in the oil, and it messed up their boomer brains. That's why boomers are so weird. It's also why they age like shit and they look like shit. It's because their bodies were constantly being destroyed by heavy metals. Yeah. But you end up with the psychology of being overly parentified, meaning you find yourself constantly being forced to be the adult. You may know this person in your friend group as the buzzkill, the guys that says like it's time to go home, nobody needs to drink anymore, or if we're gonna do that, we need X and B and Y. They tend to be the prepared guy that comes along with a proper plan, while everybody else is just letting loose and behaving like a total dumbass, and they're like, everything's gonna be fine, and then it's not fine. Yeah, that tends to be me. I tend to be Mr. Buzz Killington. Yeah. The mindset of me is I have a brick mentality where, like, because anytime I've ever tried to, funny with me, every time I've ever tried to manipulate, it's always been a 50-50 thing. And I argue it's because I have introspective. I think the truth about the malignant narcissist at the church is it's always 50-50. It's never 100%. I refuse to believe they can do everything 100%, and I know for a fact from talking to how many times they fuck up, and witnessing firsthand how many times they fuck up. It's never 100%. They just wish it was, okay? There are no 100% in life. That's just a fact, okay? Yeah, I was kind of antisocial growing up. I was really good at outsmarting people and manipulating middle school, elementary school, but I quickly grew out of it because it just seemed like a lot of work. Yeah, I thought it was a lot of work, so I just kind of stopped. And I was, because I'm a rational being, I had a lot of people that were really busy rationalizing with me at the time. And I do a lot of rationalizing and everything. I think about, I remember, dude, the ridiculous, stupid fear tactics at the church that are just, there really needs to be laws passed. Churches need to be regulated, and they need to be regulated into the dirt. Citizens shouldn't call the FBI only for the FBI to go, you can't use a person's religion. Well, their religion is, if they keep you a virgin forever, they get to enslave you in the next life, so they murder all your girlfriends. If that is the thing in that fucking church, you should be able to arrest a member, okay? Like, it's stupid, and religion is stupid, so whatever. I've never seen the point in a god. Like, I get why people have them or whatever, but like, the whole thing is, if he's omnipotent and he knows. So, if you're kissing his ass, he knows. If you're just trying to get into heaven, he knows. He knows what's gonna happen. And if he knows, he knows. It doesn't matter what you do at that point, because he knows what you're gonna do, whether you're gonna do it or not. That's how a god actually operates, okay? There's no nail biting or I'm doubling down. He knows. Like, and I would argue that, by that logic, nobody should bother believing in him, because if you believe he's in control, he's in control. If he's not in control, he's not in control. Does it really matter? No, it's pointless. The other side to me is, I guess, my values, which is pretty straightforward. We're spiritual beings having a physical experience, and anybody dedicated to ruining that physical experience is evil. Okay? And the church is pure evil by that metric, because it has ruined a lot of people's physical experience, and it has no business doing that. The obsession with the spiritual world is fun, but if you're going to be a spirit one day, you probably shouldn't be obsessed with what you're going to be one day. You're going to be that thing one day. You'll get to experience it then. For now, you're experiencing the physical world. That's how that works. It's kind of common sense. And you'll find I say that's common sense because I think from being overly parentified, the final forms of development is applied knowledge, or as we know it, common sense. The ability to defer knowledge and point out most likely outcomes by applying irrational or arbitrary information. The ability to apply arbitrary information to come out with a likely outcome. Famously, emotionally stunted people do not have common sense. And you know this because when they look at you, they go, common sense is learning from a past mistake. That's not common sense, that's learn. That is the process of learning you describe. Common sense is applied knowledge. It's way more complex and implies when you master complex thought, you get common sense because your brain's capable of putting 10 or 15 things back together at the same time to project a likely outcome. That's what common sense is. So, in closing, I think this covers a fair values in my psychology, and like I said, altruistic is my relationship type, altruism is just doing the right thing because it's the right thing. And there's like 4 or 5 relationship types, and Emotionally stunted people, it's materialism. Because stuffing things can't hurt them because they're stuffing things. People can hurt them, so they don't like people. There you go. Bobby Psych.